HSB color mode as an alternative color space to work with. We're familiar with RGB color mode, which is the color mode that we've been calling up until now. Here we're going to explore HSB and how that works. We're also going to look at transparency or alpha with color in terms of fill, stroke, etc. So let's walk through the code and describe what's happening here. So here we've got the size is 500 by 500, you're familiar with. Then we get to color mode, it's hue, saturation, and brightness. And so hue is the color range. If we bring up the color selector, we see here we've got hue, which is the hue picker is here, and you can see it goes from 0 to 360. If you can get all the way up there. Saturation is percentage, so it's 0 to 100% saturation, and brightness is 0 to 100% brightness. So if we go back here, you can see we're actually mapping the color ranges. As we discussed earlier, RGB is red, green, blue, and values from 0 to 255. In HSB, we want to make sure that we map it accordingly to that color picker that we just saw. So we're saying H is from 0 to 360, saturation is 0 to 100, and brightness is 0 to 100. So now when we go down into this, we've got the background color is 360. So that's the hue selected, which I believe is a red. The saturation is 0, meaning there's 0 color saturation, meaning there's no color, and brightness is 100. So that suggests to me that this will be pure white, meaning this number doesn't matter because the saturation is really controlling the level of color. So we'll move on. So there's no stroke. The fill, and you can see we increment through a series of color ranges here. The fill for the first ellipse is 0. So that's the first in the sort of color range, going back to the color selector here. So if we set this to 0, and 100, so that's a red. And then the last piece is the transparency, so or alpha. So alpha or transparency is 0 to 255. So this is a middling, slightly opaque transparency of 150. So you can see before we were just using 3 values, we're still using 3 values to define the color, and the 4th value is the alpha channel, or how transparent, the level of transparency. 0 being completely transparent, 255 being completely opaque. And so the rest of the code, if you go down through, basically what we're doing is just incrementing up through the color picker. So the first is 0, the second is 25, so it's orange. The third is 50, yellow. The 5th is 75, green. So you can see there's a progression that's happening as it's moving from red back to red and through the entire color spectrum. So if we run this program, you can see this is the first circle, second circle, third circle, and you can see the colors are overlapping and they're mixing because of that overlap, but you've got a slight transparency. And so if we go and we replace say we'll replace all the 150s with 50s. Sorry, 150 with 50. Because now we're just going to make the alpha channel much more transparent. So now if we play this again, you can see that it's much more transparent. You can also see that this is out of sequence, because down here this was 150 and it got changed to 50, so that messed up the sequence. Oh, there you go. Okay, so that's it. The key idea is you've got to map your color values, or your number values here, and then the fourth number is alpha, and everything else is you're controlling hue, which is the color selection, saturation, which is the intensity of the color, and brightness, which is the brightness of the color. Okay.